Hello, welcome to a very special episode of the Leeds That podcast. My name is Darragh Cunningham and I'm joined by Rocco Dean.
Hello there.
And our very special guest from Leeds Live, Isaac Johnson.
Hello, hi. Thank you for inviting me on. It's great to be here. Very exciting stuff.
Cheers, Isaac. We're very happy to have you. But before we get into hear Isaac's thoughts on all things Leeds, we must thank our sponsors, Bass & Bly, long-term sponsors of the podcast for all your camera, spotting scopes, binoculars, monoculars, and all other types of photographic needs. Rocco, anything else you'd like to add to the pile? You usually come in with something new every week.
Yeah, 6 Bueller Street in Harrogate. And there is 10% off if you spend £100 on used gear, I believe, on the website. So get yourself to www.bassandbly.com.
For all your camera needs. And they'll even buy your second-hand items if they're in good nick. And developing photos was a new one for me. So, yeah, there we go. And thanks very much to Justin again for his sponsorship of the pod. So, this week's international eye-break episode of Leeds That, we thought we'd get on Isaac Johnson, the new reporter for Leeds United on Leeds Live. Isaac, I've really enjoyed reading your articles since you've taken over from the illustrious Baron Cross, who's moved over to The Athletic. This week, actually, only this morning, you tweeted out that we have a planned friendly against Man United.
Yeah, that's right. First of all, let me say apologies if you hear me sniffling during this podcast. I've got a bit of hay fever. It's hit me full whack today, so I apologise for that. But yeah, Leeds have announced that they're going to play Manchester United in Stockholm in pre-season. That's the first friendly of the summer that they've announced. They're due to play just in Europe this summer, so it doesn't look like they're going to go across any other continents. But yeah, that's the first one. I think it's the third or fourth time they've played them in the last decade in pre-season. Obviously, there's a lot of history there between the two clubs, which goes without saying. But also, the two massive fan bases in Scandinavia as well. So it's easy to see why they've set that up.
Will you be going yourself? Have you booked your flights?
Well, that's to be confirmed, I think. But hopefully, let's see. But hopefully we'll be there in person.
I went to the Oslo one.
Speaking of being there, Rocco, were you at the last one?
Yeah, I went to Oslo, yeah. Was it? Yeah, it must have been 2 years ago now. Oh, getting on to that. Farke's first ever game. So that was good. We were a lot more outnumbered than I expected, actually, by the Man U fans. Probably very naively of me. But it was still a great laugh, great occasion, especially for all the Scandinavians. So, yeah, that's going to be a right occasion.
Yeah, always is when Leeds play Scum. So look, Isaac, you're obviously new to the Leeds fans. You're a new voice on the scene, which is always welcome, I think, with regards to Leeds, because Leeds fans, and particularly this time of season, I think it's a really good time to speak to you because we really get into our own heads to a terrible extent. But in terms of your own background, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so without going on the full story, I've always known I wanted to be a sports reporter. So since the age of 15, I've always sort of pursued that. Went sort of like the normal course, which is going to university and studying journalism there, and then sort of make my way into sport there. So I was at a local newspaper, which no one will have ever heard of in Staffordshire, but eventually took over the sports desk there. Then I was part of a team within the company where I am now, which is Reach, which without boring folks again, it is basically the overarching company for Leeds Live, and there are a few other newspapers as well. And yeah, this job came up before Christmas. Obviously, Baron was moving to the Athletic and the role opened up, and applied and got it. But football's always been my number one sport. Yeah, and it's a real honour to report on such a big club and a good passionate club as well. You know, you can have big clubs whose fan bases are kind of, I wouldn't say sterile, but sort of bland really. Whereas that's definitely not the case with Leeds, as I found out in these first few months. And that's brilliant. And also, what a time to join as well. So I started in mid-January, although technically I did a few bits before then. Yeah, what a ride we've been on so far. I've only seen one league loss so far. Obviously, we lost in the FA Cup as well, but everyone sort of shook their shoulders at that, really. So I've seen all sides now, and it's brilliant. It's been fantastic, and long may it continue, and hopefully in the top flight next season. But I'm sure we'll get onto that.
I'm almost scared to ask who your actual club is.
Well, One of the guys in the press room asked me this, and I said it's a team that plays in red, and they got the wrong end of the stick. It's not Manchester United. I want to make that very, very clear. Now, I did do a little bit of reporting on Manchester United before this. However, I'm definitely not a Manchester United supporter. I am a Liverpool supporter, which is it might be quite a good summer for me, potentially.
Yeah.
And it also repeats potentially what happened in the COVID season as well.
I have to laugh here because Rocco's brother is a Liverpool fan. He's defected. I have a nephew who's a Liverpool fan. He's defective. You aware of the history of Leeds United and Liverpool when it comes to Leeds United winning the second tier of English football?
Of course.
Yeah. So is it the last 3 times, Rocco, and hopefully the 4th time coming up this year? Leeds have won the second tier.
I think it's 3, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I think this would be the 3rd time in a row. But my favourite connection of the clubs is that each of the 3 times that Leeds have won the league, the actual title has been secured at Anfield. So, when Man U lost to Liverpool in 92, 74 was Liverpool beating Arsenal. Losing to Arsenal at Anfield, and then 69 was Leeds getting a 0-0 draw at Anfield. So, yeah, uncanny.
That's a hell of a connection, all right. Wow. Yeah, okay, we'll take that. Maybe, Isaac, you're going to be our lucky charm this season. Who knows?
I hope so.
I saw a link this morning with Kellegher potentially coming to Leeds. What do you think about him?
I saw that as well. It would be a fantastic signing, but I think there's several things to say about that. One is that I very much doubt that any such plans like that are going to... Obviously, there'll be primitive plans being outlined, and we know that for a fact that this putting strategies in place for if they go up or if they don't go up. But in terms of player specifics, until it's clear which division Leeds are playing in next season, I don't think they're going to make any sort of proper decision on players. And also, as well, it'd be great if Kellegher could come to Leeds. I have a feeling that a few other clubs might want him, though, as well, and perhaps those who can offer Europe, and obviously that's always appealing as well. So we'll see. It'd be a fantastic signing, but at the moment, I think it's just a few rumours.
Yeah, I think he'd be top of a lot of people's list, wouldn't he? He's probably the best of the available keepers around Europe at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And there's even a few top 6 sides you might say might go in for him as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. It looks like he'll leave Liverpool this season. If Leeds can get him, fantastic. But let's see. I think that's probably the status on that.
And he's Irish, which always, bonus points there. Bonus certainly as far as I'm concerned. So you've been in position since January, you said?
Yes, it was 2 months on Sunday.
Wow, so you're very new to the scene. How have you found it so far in general, reporting on Leeds United, which is such a strange club?
It's been so fun and really eye-opening to see the inner workings of the club, and how sort of streamlined it is, but also how friendly the guys are as well. So I'll just give you a quick insight. I've got a nut allergy, right? So I have to be careful about stuff. And I told this to the guys who sort of like the media staff at the club. And they immediately put protocols in place to sort of like help me straight away, which not every club would do that. So I just wanted to sort of say that publicly, that they have been fantastic with me in regards to that, and I think that just attests to their character, really. But in terms of the actual sort of covering Leeds themselves, I mean, like I said before, what a ride! I mean, I hadn't experienced a loss until that Portsmouth game, or a league loss, should I say, and I was wondering, what would the reaction be like? Like I said before, it's a really emotional fan base. That's what I love about Leeds. There's so many differing opinions. All most, to say, are valid as well. You can see Leeds fans are a very football intelligent fan base, if you know what I mean. Obviously, everyone goes off reactions after a game, after results, after transfer news and things like that. But I just love the passion of the fans, but also the what Leeds are doing off the pitch and on the pitch as well. What we've been seeing in the past few, well, maybe not the past few matches, but before then, the past few weeks, is the style of play has been brilliant, and it's just been really, really fun. To be honest, I think that's the sort of the word I'd use. It's been fun. Yeah.
Have you been attending all the games home and away then? Do you go every single match?
Yes. So that meant last week I was or the week before I was down in Portsmouth. Then it was back up on Wednesday for the game, and then back down to London again. So we sort of, although we're not on the team bus as such, obviously we sort of follow them around a lot, and it's some days are long, but it's all worth it really because of how well Leeds are doing and what's at stake. I mean, that the last week where we faced Portsmouth, Millwall, and obviously QPR, I think I spoke to Farke more times than my family. I think there's about 6 press conferences that week, including post-match as well. So that was eye-opening, shall we say? But no, I must say as well, Daniel Farke is very good manager to speak to. I know people might say he's a bit bland. He toes the line a lot with his press conference lines. I get that, but as a person, as a gentleman, he is a gentleman, and he considers every question. If he disagrees with it, he'll tell you he disagrees with it, but usually he'll explain why he disagrees with it and stuff like that. If he agrees with it, obviously he'll expound out more about why he plays a certain way, why he played a certain player, why he rested, and all that. So as much as he can be, he's quite an open book, and that's to an extent anyway. But that's been really, really cool to deal with.
Yeah, I think that we're big fans of Farke. I think on this pod, we're not oblivious to the fact that he may have some shortcomings as a manager. But I think one of the things I've always said is that as a leader, I think he's second to none in terms of how he navigates difficult situations, and I just believe he's a natural leader of men. So kind of no surprise to hear that he's actually a genuinely nice person as well behind the scenes, who gives people the respect they deserve with regards to questions and answers in those situations.
Yeah, and it's right what you say about sort of being a leader, because at the end of the day, he's won the title twice. Okay, so he's been there, he's done it, he's won it. Okay, not with Leeds, and that's where the skepticism comes, is because okay, you did it with Norwich when really no one was expecting you to. Now, when the pressure's on, can you do it with Leeds? And so that's the question. But he has been here before. And so far, he's top of the table, which he reminds us all. They've scored the most goals out of anyone in the division, and they're on a pretty good position. I know these last few results have placed a few jitters in there, but he commands respect whilst not being over domineering, if that makes sense. And I've written a piece that will go out, I think it's tomorrow, and within it I've mentioned about how Farke is the Iceman. We've seen Chris Wilder this week, which you might say understandably so, after the Sheffield United game, he came out with a few choice words about his team and also the opposition. You've had Scott Parker, who's also received a red card recently, and okay, Farke did get the touchline ban for that third yellow card against Sunderland, but come on, I mean, really, to get a yellow card for that is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, you could tell that sort of stuck in his craw, really, because a few press conferences since he's mentioned that, how he was unhappy with that. But yeah, so he never gets too high, never gets too low, and I think that's what, when you're going for a title, that's what you need, really, or promotion, should I say, that's what you need. And I must say, he has impressed me with his demeanour so far. Now we could talk about his other decisions, I'm sure, but in terms of his character, in terms of his demeanour, yeah, in that regard, I think Leeds have got a good guy there.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone better, really, for keeping calm, for being an example to the players. And it's funny because I remember when, in Bielsa's first season, when Leeds failed to go up, at the end of that campaign, like him and Radrizzani and Kinnear and Orta had a meeting, and they spoke about what they could do differently to stay, to keep the squad calmer in the. So it'll be interesting to know if they had those conversations after last season, whether there's anything they could do different. I mean, Farke's so calm anyway. It's just almost like he what can he do? He can do as much as he can do, but then the players have to cross the line, and it's tough that he has to fall on the sword. But we're talking about humans with in a very emotional situation, and championship players, but playing for such an enormous club that are so desperate to succeed. Bit of a toxic combination we've found.
Yeah. Well, the expectation is it's not. The expectation is promotion, and he knows that. He's fully aware of that. He's also underlined how Leeds could do something historic in the sense of, if they go up, it'd be the first time they go up under fans in the Premier League. and he's very aware of that, and he knows the size of the task. And I think as well with some of the referee decisions that he's also mentioned recently, he's underscored that a lot recently in terms of how ref decisions haven't gone their way. He knows that every point counts, and he knows that his job is essentially on the line because of that. And so that's why I think he's underscored that. But those are the only times really that I have seen Daniel really sort of angry or frustrated. He usually keeps his cool, even after scoring the winner against Sunderland. He was on the pitch, and he was showed some rare emotion really in a sense. But once he got to the press conference, he was totally chill again. So it's good to have someone like that at the helm when you've got so much outside pressure, so much noise going on, which obviously we all contribute to. But that's Leeds. It's Leeds that, isn't it?
Yeah, Leeds that indeed. It's funny you mentioned the Iceman thing, because I think I've mentioned that before, and I remember when Farke brought his Norwich team to Elland Road under Bielsa, and they smashed us 3-0. And Rocco, am I getting that right? Was it Elland Road or was that an away game?
Yeah, it was Elland Road. 3-1 there. Bamford scored in injury time.
Yeah, 3-1, you're right. Yeah, I knew I had something wrong because I could see your face. But I remember thinking, I wish Leeds could just do that, just rock up to a really important game, ice cool, no superstars, just everyone's like a 7.5 out of 10. Everyone's just on it, efficient. And I think we got that last season. Like for the majority of last season, we beat Leicester home and away, beat Ipswich home and away. Until those last 8 games, which ironically we're kind of at now, we were representative of that kind of ice coolness, just rocking up the games, being very efficient and getting it. And I think where we failed last season was probably in a lack of rotation. A few players dropped off performance due to tiredness and injury, Somerville and Ruter in particular. My question is, I suppose, on Farke's latest shows of emotion or displays of emotion, do you think maybe some of it's strategic? Is he trying to maybe put some pressure on the referees to start kind of looking at Leeds a little bit differently? Because we actually had a discussion about this last week, and one of our regular listeners, Fitzroy Baggers on X, mentioned that in the Premier League, it seems to be the top teams like your Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, Man City, they tend to get all the decisions. Whereas in the Championship, it's almost the opposite, where they're kind of the referees are almost trying to drag you down if you're at the top of the league. I'm wondering, do you think maybe this kind of latest turn within Farke could be partly strategic?
I think there's got to be an element of that. Yeah, definitely, because at the end of the day, he's making officials aware, whether they listen to him or not, but he's making officials aware that, I'm watching, I've had a look at these decisions, I'm not happy. And it was interesting. I've said how he got frustrated. The most sort of irate I've seen him was after the disallowed goal against Millwall, which, obviously Leeds won, but that for several reasons was a quite important goal that was chalked off because Millwall could have gone on and got an equaliser. Also, Aronson needed an assist. He needs an assist. He needs something to happen. And that would have been perhaps a catalyst. That was what was ruled out. It's probably one of the best team goals as well, definitely of Leeds this season that they would have scored. So I think definitely there is an element of strategy about it. I asked him before the Millwall game basically about the fans, because obviously it was the first loss in a while after Portsmouth, and there were there were a few jitters after that. So I asked him in the press conference how much do you need the fans at home, and he was like, basically it seems like it's us against everyone else in the sense of referee decisions, in the sense of scheduling as well. Because I must admit, having 3 games in 7 days is a lot. Now, people might say, well, it's only one less than 8 days, which is what it usually is. So you usually have one on the Saturday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, and the Saturday again. Right. But that loss of an extra 24 hours is actually really impactful. And especially when you've got to travel down to Portsmouth and London as well. So I do have, as many fans do, many onlookers do, have a lot of sympathy with that. And I think that played a factor towards the end of the QPR game. But I think there's got to be an element of strategy about it, but I don't think that is the sole purpose of it. I think he's letting the officials know, but he's also galvanising the fan base as well to say, look, it's us against everyone else. Let's get behind the team. And he went on to say that if we win all our home games for the rest of the season and draw every away game, we'll be in a pretty good position. And so I think you're right. Yes, about strategy, but I think it's also about galvanising everyone together as well, basically.
That's good to hear. And obviously, you mentioned someone who's probably could be a little bit controversial at the moment, Brendan Aronson. Obviously, you've been travelling to every game, home and away. You've seen him in the flesh for 90 minutes most weeks. Obviously, we saw Willie Gnonto come on last week and provide perhaps a different type of performance, because obviously they're quite different players. What's your take on the Aronson situation at the moment? Do you think there's value in maintaining this position, or do you think maybe it's time for Willie to come in?
I think it is time for a change, but I don't think it will happen. And there's a few reasons for that, which I know will probably disappoint a few fans. But one of them is that, well, first of all, let's just talk about Aronson's form. He runs a lot and everyone appreciates his work rate. I really, really admire his work rate as well. But it's everything else. At the end of the day, you've got to link up the play. You've got to play that final ball. You've got to score goals. He is fantastic with the press, and that's why Farke likes him, because it allows both Tanaka and Rothwell to play together without having to do as much of that, basically. So he brings that value, and that's what Farke likes. However, it is evident that if you can't do it now in the back end of the Championship, obviously we'll find out that in the next 8 games how he'll do. But as of the last 14 games, he's got 1 goal contribution. That's not good enough. That's just simply not good enough, especially if you're thinking about playing in the Premier League. If you can't do it in the Championship, you're not going to do it in the Premier League. And so that number 10 position is a real concern should Leeds go up. Now, as for Gnonto, when he came on against QPR, he completely changed the position within a few minutes. He obviously played that ball forward to Dan James, and it eventually led to the equaliser. And that wasn't the only thing he did as well. He spread the play really well. He linked up. He did a few flicks that actually came off as well. He didn't press as much, which is what Farke noted, and that's why I think that he's still got a lot to learn. I mean, that was the first time Gnonto started at number 10 Farke in a league game. Now, he started there against Millwall. He didn't do too well there, but that's because that so much change in the team, and it was difficult for anyone to find any rhythm then. So it's hard to judge him there. But that's to say, Gnonto does have still more to learn in that role. And coupled with the fact that Aronson has not been selected for the US this break, he will have a good stretch of a rest now. And as we've seen with Farke for most of the season, definitely in these last few months, he likes to stick to type. He doesn't really like to change that much. Now, he did hint afterwards that, after the QPR game, well, he didn't hint. He said he was in 2 minds whether to start Gnonto or not, basically, and then play Gruev as the defensive midfielder. And so that would allow, basically, Gnonto not to press as much, but it would give more defensive stability. He said it was up to the early hours of the morning, trying to figure out what to do. And in the end, he stuck to type and he kicked himself afterwards. He said, I was too greedy, basically. He said, that was a wrong decision, which is quite nice to hear in the sense that, he's not putting up his guard. He will admit when he's got something wrong. But with Aronson, I think there does need to be a change in time. If he doesn't kick on after this break, then I don't think Falk's got any other option than to replace him, because although his pressing is fantastic, and the sense I sort of get from the supporters is that, and I could be wrong, and it probably has changed in the last few weeks because of his lack of output, but they want him to do well, but because everything else in his game, they appreciate his work rate, his hassling, he can turn a man. The fact that he's not been able to do that final ball, it's almost like, what a shame. There is a lot of anger, of course, there is a lot of anger when players don't produce, but it's like, you've got everything else, it's just that last bit, which unfortunately is the most important bit as a number 10. End of the day, that's what you're there for. You're there to link up play, you're there to score goals, and he's not done that. And so, look, in the summer, if Leeds go up, loads of departments of the squad will need to get looked at, will have to get rebolstered, because currently you could be the best in the Championship, but with this squad, you're going to get relegated straight away with this squad, how it is. So a number of areas do need altering and bolstering. Number 10 is definitely up there as a priority. That's got to be one of the first ones if Leeds do go up. What is interesting is that when Gnonto came on, Farke showed his plan B for number 10. It was always a bit ambiguous before. Was it Solomon? Was it Gnonto? Was it Perrault dropping back? Now, obviously, Perrault has dropped back during a game, but when he does that, he sort of, I feel anyway, he'd lose something up top, because sorry to go off on a bit of a tangent here. If you notice, when Perrault is playing as the 9 and he drops, once he spreads the play, he knows what to do. Oh, we need to get back in the number 9 position. When he plays as the number 10 position, once he's played that ball, he's like, what do I do next? Do I get in the box? Do I not? Do I stay on the edge? And so he's not as effective as a number 10. as he is a number 9 dropping, if that makes sense. So I don't think that's necessarily the answer. I think Gnonto probably will be the answer, but whether Farke actually replaces him with whether Farke replaces Aronson with him straight away afterwards, I'm not so sure. But it may come a time when he's got no option, basically.
I think I agree in that, first, I think you nailed it when you said it's a shame. A lot of the Leeds fans think it's a shame, and it is. And like Darragh talked about the Aronson noise, where, you get all excited and then, it just ends up, doing nothing at the end of it. And it is a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like you said, I'd be surprised if he did take him out now. And, fair enough, the number 10's job is to produce goals and assists. But like, I think Farke values control of matches so much, puts so much importance on that, and Aronson helps us dominate nearly every single match, and I guess he'll be worried that if you take him out, you lose that control, and whether he's making assists or not, if Leeds are controlling the whole game and he's part of the reason why, then he'll think that we've got more chance of winning with him in the team, regardless of his numbers. So we might have to sit out a bit longer.
There was one instance that sort of summed Aronson's form up, and it was against, I think it was against West Brom, might have been against West Brom, where he harried for the ball, he got the ball, he hassled, and he won the ball, he turned his man, he drove forward, and then passed straight to an opposition player, and a big groan went up. And it's like, that's his form in a nutshell, unfortunately. And over the past few,
Yeah, I think Leeds fans have been very fair with him, and I think, Rocco, you're probably a better place to talk about this, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Just that northern grit thing, and I think Leeds fans respect people who give 100%, and there's no doubt that Aronson does that. Like, one of the biggest heroes in Leeds over the last few years is Andy Hughes, and Andy Hughes was by no means a baller, as Farke might have said this week, but Christ, he gave 100% every single game, and Leeds fans absolutely fell in love with him, and are still in love with him to this day. So I think that kind of attitude towards Aronson is there. We're willing him to do well, but it comes back to that thing, as you just said, against West Brom. It's the Aronson noise. It's like, and then just dies a death.
Yeah.
Every time he gets near the ball.
And I think just finally on that as well, I did sort of allude to it earlier then, Gnonto is he's a bit of a novice in that position. He's definitely got potential. We saw him against QPR, how well he did. Let's remind ourselves that Gnonto hasn't been playing from the start for a good while, so he has fresher legs. And actually, him being on away with the Italy under-21s is probably a good thing, because he'll get more minutes in his legs. But yes, Gnonto for Leeds at least, he hasn't been played there that much. And so that and all the rest of what I've said before is why I think he'll stick with Aronson initially anyway. One
last thing, actually, sticking to the pitch before we move on to a couple of more open-ended questions. Ampadu. So Ethan Ampadu, we all feel on this pod that we massively miss his leadership on the pitch. Not only as a player, but as someone in a referee's ear, as someone who won't let other teams rough us up. How much have you noticed the impact of his loss on the team since Sheffield United?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely evident. I was looking at the statistics the other day, and in I think it was the 6 games before his injury, we had kept 5 out of 6 clean sheets. So, and they only conceded once, which was against Sunderland. And then the 6 games after his injury, Leeds have only kept 1 clean sheet. And I've conceded, I forgot how many goals it is now. Is it a few goals, put it that way? More than 1, let's say that. So, yeah, absolutely. His presence is one thing, but his leadership as well, you're right. Against Portsmouth, it was just crying out for someone like Ampadu to be there, to sort of get everyone by the collar and say, look, they're playing rough, but let's recuperate. Let's take the game to them rather than just sort of accept that that's their game plan. Really, they have missed his communication and his leadership, and it's the same against QPR as well. I mean, my summary of that game was the first 2 goals were down to mental fatigue, and the reason why Leeds didn't get the winner is because of physical fatigue, basically. And they did really well to come back into the game. But would they have conceded those 2 goals if Ampadu was on the pitch? Well, who knows, I suppose. I don't think, he would have been directing players a lot more than what happened. I mean, I haven't seen Joe Rodon lose his marker for a while, and the first time he has done, Steve Cook goes and heads in off the post. So it's just about keeping teammates on the ball, really. And like you said, maybe going to referees, maybe chatting to the referee, but also just that demeanour on the pitch that you've got a guy who knows what he's doing. He can sweep the ball from deep midfield. He can spread the ball easily, transition. defence to attack simply, but efficiently as well, and quickly. Yeah, Leeds have struggled with that in midfield. And I think you're right. I think it's this leadership as much as his gameplay, really. But the good news is that he is already back on the grass doing ball work. I asked Farke in the press conference before QPR about when does he expect him back. And he basically said in the last 5 or 6 games, potentially. He could return to training after the international break, potentially. I would be amazed, I think it's the word, if I heard he was back in team training on the first press conference back, because it's a knee cartilage injury. And ideally, in any other circumstance, you would have had surgery on that. But because that would have ruled him out for the season, that's why they've gone down the more conservative route, as he said. But yeah, he will be hopefully back for the last few games, but I think it's absolutely vital. So that's the good news, and it also is a testament to him, as the player, for being able to recover from an injury like that so quickly and being robust, but also as well to the medical staff. I don't think enough's been said really about the medical staff. Obviously, you've got, I think probably Bamford and Voba are probably the sort of outliers in this, but for the most part, if you think about the injuries that Leeds have had, the guys have come back pretty quick, or within the time frame that they've said. It's been the earliest. If you say like 4 or 6 weeks, it's been 4 weeks. Or if it's been 2 months, 3 months, it's been 2 months. I mean, Gruev is one case in point. He was back. Was it 3 months, something like that, from his injury, which is incredible, really. And yeah, Firpo as well. He was back within the shortest time that they said.
Was as well last time. I think Ampadu came back very quickly and straight into the team as well. He didn't mess around. He got him straight back in.
Exactly. So I think that's probably one of the secret weapons, as it were, really, of Leeds. When players have been injured, they've been able to get them back on the pitch quite quickly. Obviously, Bamford's an exception, and Voba's just had some ongoing knee problems, which isn't the fault of the medical department at all. It's just I think it's just the nature of the injury. But so I think it's important to mention that, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? I've only got two more questions, and one of them is very, very short. But before we get to the very short one, where do you see us then? How's the end of the season going to play out?
I loads of people that asked me that question in the recent days, and I said, if I had to put my house on it, I'd say yes, Leeds would go up. I think on paper, Leeds have definitely got the strongest squad in the Championship, but the problem is football isn't played on paper; it's played on grass, and so we need to. I think this international break comes as a really good reset, and Farke said that at the time. It comes as a really good mental and both physical reset as well for everyone, because obviously Leeds had a few adverse results, 5 points out of possible 12. I mean, it isn't great. I mean, some people say the QPR game was a good draw, and I think in the context of the game, it's a good draw. And after the game, some of the press guys said it was a good result to come back away from home, especially with the history that Leeds have had at Loftus Road. And I totally accept that. But at the same time, I think Leeds need to be aiming a bit higher. I really do. I think against lower table teams, I know they're difficult away from home, but that's the game I expected Leeds to win. And I think Darragh, you said on the last podcast I was listening to, I think that you said it depends what your expectations were going in. If you were not expecting a win, the draw was a good result. But if you expected the win, which I did, maybe as a result of the good form that they've had since I've been in the role, sort of took a slightly not dimmer but a more reserved view of that. But looking ahead to the next 8 final games, I did a piece yesterday where I compared like all the sort of average positions and the average points of each of the top 3's running of their opponents. Now, on paper, at least have got the quote easier running. But we know it never works like that. And they have got a few relegation sides who will be scrapping for their lives. I do think Leeds will have enough to go up. Because Farke's right. If Leeds do win their 4 home games, having not lost a home game in the league since September, so it's absolutely feasible. If they win their 4 home games and don't lose any of their away games, that should be enough. I mean, that will take you to... If it's 4 home wins and 4 away draws, that's 96 points. And no team has got 96 points and not finished in the top 2 since the EFL split from the Premier League, which I know everyone will say, well, there's a first time for everything and it's Leeds, don't you know? And yes, I do get that. I 100% get that. You got to remember, Burnley have still got Sheffield United to play on the 3rd last week. So someone's going to drop points there, if not both. And also, by the way, Frank Lampard's Coventry City play, I think, Sheffield United away first and Burnley in the next 2 games coming up. after the international break. And obviously they've been in a really, really good vein of form. That 2-0 win for Leeds at Coventry, as it turns out, was a very, very good result, because that's the only league game that they've lost. Coventry have lost at home in 4 months, and that was the only run in 10 games that they'd lost as well under Lampard. So Lampard's impact cannot be deniable there, and he could have a say in Leeds' title race, ironically, given we all know what happened a few years ago. And by the way, he let Leeds United fans know about that after the match last month as well, sticking up a few fingers to them. I should say, when I say sticking up a few fingers, the scoreline, not any others. But yeah, so I'm pretty positive now. Maybe I'm a bit wet behind the ears. Maybe because I'm sort of new to the scene that I'm not carrying as much skepticism as others. But I'm quite positive. Yeah.
That's good to hear, Rocco. What do you reckon?
Good to hear. Yeah, I don't know. I look at all the pictures and they all worry me in their own way, and especially the Bristol City last home game. I mean, God, fingers crossed it might even be done by then. But yeah, because I mean, they look fantastic at Sheffield United. That'll be a really tricky home game, nervy afternoon. So I'm already dreading that. And even Oxford away, it reminds me of when we went to Burton under Gary Monk and got turned over, and there's instances all through our history that remind me of Wigan. Let's not, God.
No,
anyway.
I definitely understand that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not blind to that. I'm not naive to it. I know exactly what the risks are, 100%. But I just think Leeds have got too strong a squad. Although, having said that, Farke needs to use the squad. I mean, that's one thing. And there is a risk of burnout for several players. I mean, Rodon has started every championship game. He's about to play 2 matches for Wales. Dan James, he started the last 14 championship games. He's played the full 90 minutes in the last 6 of those. He's playing 2 games this international break. Solomon's playing 2. Naka, he'll play 2 as well as the travelling. So there is definitely a risk of burnout there, but that's down to Farke's rotation, really. And so if there's anything that can scupper Leeds, I think it's that. I think it's the risk of a burnout, risk of mental and physical fatigue, basically. But I totally do understand as well, when it gets to this end of the season, there's that pressure of we've got 2 other teams breathing down our neck. We've got only so many games to go. But I'm trying to stay...
Rocco, do you have any questions before I come in with the last one?
No, fire away.
All right, so this is an observation that I've made throughout this podcast. Isaac, I have noticed you have said us and we every time you've referred to Leeds. You're all in here. You're loving this, aren't you?
Of course. Yeah. And I've caught myself saying that as well. But you did, I was watching, who was it? Was it Sheffield United against Bristol City the other day? And when Bristol City scored, I was cheering. I was going Barbie as much. Obviously, Liverpool are my first team, but obviously I want Leeds to do really, really well. Obviously, as a journalist, as someone in the press, you have to stay objective, and we do stay objective. But that doesn't mean we don't want Leeds not to do well. Do you know what I mean? We want Leeds. We all want to be in the Premier League as reporters, right? We all want to be on this mad journey with everyone. And so, yeah, I want Leeds to go up, do well. Yeah, I don't mind saying we and us. So yeah, absolutely, I'm all in, and hopefully, we can get.
I think Isaac is a Leeds fan. Isaac is a Leeds fan. Is going to be getting chanted out sometime soon. Listen, Isaac, thank you very much for coming on to the pod. Really enjoyed your insights there. You're clearly a brilliant writer, and to be fair, Leeds Live is a wonderful website and great on social media. Do you want to give it a plug before we finish?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind words. And thank you to everyone who's given me a really warm welcome, really, since I've started the role. I mean, the reaction that I had since announcing that I started the role it's blown me away, actually. It's been really, really lovely. So thank you to everyone for that. And also thank you to everyone who's read the stuff so far. So it's Leeds Live. If you literally type Leeds Live into Google, it will come up. If you're struggling, type Leeds Live, Leeds United, and it'll definitely come up. Or if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am, or X as it's now called, I'm on at Isaac, which is ISAAC Johnson LL, and that's where you can find me for that, which is where I post stuff usually. I also have Blue Sky, which you can find me on, which is just my name, Isaac Johnson. If you want the constant flow of info Follow me on X. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I'm sorry that I've been sniffling about 18 times every sentence, but hopefully I can come on again and I'll be a bit more...
Yeah, hopefully
after
that pollen.
promotion.
Yes,
Going on after promotion this season.
Yes, the party bus down to the Plymouth.
Maybe it will be double celebration. It'll be once again history will be made. Leeds will win the second tier, and Liverpool will have won the top tier. And
yes,
that'll be great for everybody, I think, and another piece of history made. Isaac, from everyone here at Leeds, thank you very, very much. Rocco, thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you, Darragh.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you all soon. Take care.